Welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. Here we'll talk to the leaders in technology, culture, business, and the arts. We'll cover politics, advocacy, motherhood, writing, mental health, and mostly we'll focus on hope. Join Kim B. Davis, author, playwright, radio personality, event consultant, professional speaker on the Kim B. Davis Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have a special treat for you. We have Phette Hollins, who is author, filmmaker, and podcast host, and we're talking about one of our favorite topics, which is horror. And we're going to break down the new series, Them. So if you have not watched the series, Them, do not listen to this show. Go find another show and then watch them and then come back, because we're going to give you some spoiler alerts and we're going to break down some scenes and talk about some things. But before we start that, I want to welcome our guest. Good evening, Phette. How are you? Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm always glad to be on the Kim B. Davis Show. So thank you for having me. Once again, I can do this forever.
Yay! Thank you, Phette. All right, so let's get to our topic, because when the show came out, you said you wanted to watch it. I wanted to watch it. You binge watched it before I did, and then I started watching it, and I started texting you like, "Have you watched this?" You were like, "What episode are you on?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" So
you were like, "I ain't getting no sleep."
I really didn't. For like the first night I watched, I think 6 or 7 episodes, and it was like 2 in the morning, and I was like, I have to get up. My children have virtual school tomorrow. I didn't really have anything on my schedule, so it was okay, but still I knew I had stuff to do, and I was just like, I know I have to get up in the morning, so I'm gonna be hurting, but I need to get up. But then I watched the last 3 episodes, I think the very next night, or if not the very next night after that. So it was really quick, and I was like, I was blown away. I thought it was good. I will say that I thought it was very good. It is gratuitous, though. I will say that. But I digress. I will let you go ahead. Tell us what you thought overall, and then you've got some notes that you want to share with us on an episode basis where you break down each episode for us.
Yes. So I really did. I like them as well. What I mainly liked about it, I like any show or anything that talks about the shadow self. I'm really infatuated with the shadow. Mm-hmm. So anything with human behavior and relationships, I'm all for. So Them really talked about the demons that we have within.
Absolutely.
And I think that's paramount to our healing and growth. So if anything's talking about healing, growth as the umbrella, I'm all for it. So and the way that they conveyed it, as far as like visually, creatively, in the series, was brilliant. I love the way that they showed the shadow aspects of, ourselves, pretty much, So that's the main thing that I liked about it, how they showed that everyone has a dark side, a side that we want to keep hidden, a side that we want to keep suppressed, or, in that nature. So that's what I mainly liked about Them.
Okay.
I will say that it was hard. A lot of it was hard to watch because the backdrop is about racism, systemic racism, and this specifically relating to the housing discrimination.
Yes.
So it tackles the redlining and just the American dream of owning your own home and still don't have the freedom when you get to the point where you own your home, because then there had those clauses in there, and which I thought was I would not have believed it had I not worked at the Register of Deeds and I actually saw a deed that had a. I said, and I what? And I took a screenshot of that mug. Like, are you serious?
Mhm.
So it's just unfortunate just what we had to endure,
Yes.
what people had to endure, and what we're still enduring,
Mhm.
because it's generational. We're going to be enduring this for God knows how long, even though we may not have been alive back in the 40s. We still feel that. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, yeah. So, so I liked how they put that. They showed us how the American dream, even us achieving the quote unquote American dream, is still we still are seen as lesser than, not equal, not safe in our own homes that we work for, um, and we minding our business. Like, I
Right.
just don't understand. I be so confused. All this I just be confused about. Do you know what I mean? I don't understand why it's anybody's like they having whole meetings. Okay, we could go to the episodes. Yeah,
Yep. Yep.
break the episodes down.
So
Yeah,
let's start with the first episode. They so we see sort of the flashback of why Lucky, who as an actress, I thought she did a phenomenal job portraying that
beautiful. She's
character.
beautiful.
She did.
Yeah,
And I, the one thing I will say about them did capture how as African American people, we have our own inner demons to deal with along with the outside demons, the external things that happen, the racism, the jealousy, all the different things that are thrown at you on a daily basis by everybody else who doesn't look like you to try to make you stop or make you quit or to hurt you. And I thought they did a fantastic job on showcasing that.
yes, the inner and the outer. They did that
Mhm.
brilliantly.
Mhm.
So we have to. We're like superheroes for real.
We were. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
We take on so much stuff. Like, you
Mhm.
can't compare us to anybody else. Like, no one else can say that they have to endure what Black people have to endure. Period. The
Mhm.
women, the men.
Mhm.
Period. So we're superheroes.
Yeah.
But they did do that. They did do that brilliantly. So for my notes, I just took down like just
Mhm.
sketching because I was trying to, be present, but I wrote down some things that stood out to me. So I said that the music
Yes. Yes.
was on point. You know how we feel about music
Mhm.
in shows. The music was on point. Whoever did that score, it was great. And I said the creepy white lady is what I said.
Mhm.
That white lady was creepy. Wasn't
What
she creepy?
Yes, she was. In a Brady Bunch,
Oh,
kinda from the Twilight Zone way, where you thought, "This is the lady that bakes cookies, and she looks really nice," but she was black-hearted.
no, not the neighbor.
Oh, no,
Not
no,
that
which
one.
one? Which
No, the one in the beginning, when they were living in North
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Carolina.
yeah, 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 the one that was singing the Black Joe?
That
Yes, that
the
lady
black
was
Joe.
creepy, yes. Very, very
Yes.
creepy.
Yeah,
And
we'll get to the other one in a minute, but yeah, she's a different type of creepy.
yes,
Like
yes,
on
she was.
exterior, like you
Mhm.
said, Brady
Like
Bunch.
like a horror movie. Well, okay, so the first lady that we're talking about who walks up and says the old Negro spiritual Black Joe, I said, this don't look good. This about to be some stuff about to happen. And it is sort of like if you were in any other movie, she would have been the monster. She would
Yeah,
have been the alien creature, the vampire, the werewolf, or what have you. However, she just was a racist, crazy white woman.
she was a monster in here too.
Yes, she
She
was,
was a
absolutely.
yeah,
But she was also a crazy white woman, racist monster. Yes.
yes. So I thought she was really creepy, but they did a good job with the casting because she played that part. And what I did notice is that because I started paying attention to my body as far as like when
Mhm,
emotions, with different emotions, and see
mhm,
what type of feeling those elicit and what my body is doing. I
mhm,
really had a really uncomfortable feeling about her. This is what I knew this show was good, because I don't get those feelings from all movies. Like
yeah,
from love stories, I get that when I'm just like, oh, it's tingly. Oh. But with horror, I usually don't feel that way. So I'm just like, why do I feel this way with this one? It was, yeah, it was um like bittersweet in a way.
Yes.
Oh, this is good. I feel this way, but it sucks that I feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
But I just mainly made note about the restrictive covenants and how they got the property, and the what was she, the realtor
Mm-hmm.
who was, oh, so much, so much stuff, so many layers to this, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Also the realtor who lured them in for
Mm-hmm.
the greater gain to mistreat them.
The
And
scene
this stuff,
where she's sitting at the table with the bankers and they're talking, and it basically, these are subprime loans. And what do they say? It's a win-win for us because they can't go anywhere else and get a loan. So if they come to us and get a loan because it's their first house, they're going to do everything they can. They're going to work their butts off to make sure they keep that house. And if they lose it, guess what? All we do is flip it, put it back on the market, and make another loan. And I thought, wow.
that is like a dagger to the heart.
Yes.
Because that happens.
That's
Especially, and when the man even made a mention too, saying they'll never be able to get out of that.
Right.
And he was like, that's the point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I rewinded that part because I said, no, are you serious right now?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So disheartening.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually reading a book called The Color of Law that's strictly about the systemic racism in housing and the public housing.
Mm-hmm.
So I never even knew those stories.
Mm-hmm.
How never ever knew. So all of that is tying together. Like, wow.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you watch communities change or turnover. And Detroit is no different. You know, when you see African Americans move into a neighborhood, white flight, those dollars leave, property values are diminished. And then everybody says the neighborhood goes down. And then when something happens and white people move back into that same neighborhood, all of a sudden it's considered valuable. And the same Black people who fought to move into that neighborhood originally now are being pushed out because they can't afford to stay there.
It's horrible.
It is. It's a vicious cycle.
It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I have for my notes. And I did have one note when they were all standing around in the first episode when the black family moved in. And so then the neighbor across the street and all of her friends, all of them were talking about it like, oh my God, what is happening? What are we gonna do?
Uh-huh.
And they were like, they have a daughter. And one of them said, how old is the daughter? And that man said 8 or 30. Who can tell with them? I hollered.
Yeah.
I hollered because I was like, Black don't crack. They was like 8 or 30. So whoever wrote that line, and I was cracking up. Like they said 8 or 30. I'm mad, but yeah.
But that also goes to the fact that young Black girls, even at the age of 8, when you are truly an innocent young girl, you are sexualized because they say, well, you mature earlier. You know, it's this myth that Black girls mature earlier. So that's why white men could do whatever they wanted to them. They would be like, well, they're okay because they mature earlier. And so when I heard that, that was the first thing I thought. And that tied back into the last episode when the guy asked the oldest daughter, well, how old are you? And I think she said she was 15 or 16.
15.
And he was like in dog years or something. And or he said, you're almost an adult in dog years. And I was just like, what? A serious, like, we know that this
I get what you're saying. Mm-hmm.
Right. But it just was, wow.
Yes, I remember that part too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was just so much. That's why I said some parts where it was kind of like overwhelming. I was just triggered a lot. And I know that I didn't read a lot of like critics, what the critics had to say. But I do remember one headline saying something about it went too far. Like they took the racism too far. And I didn't want to read that because I'm just like, really? I just don't think that anything we make could ever take it as far as racism actually is. Do you see what I'm saying? So I didn't want to watch it. I mean, read it based on the headline, which I judged it based on the headline. But they feel like, yeah, it was just too much. It was like, I don't think it was too, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Like, I don't think it was too much. It was too much for me to watch, like to handle, but I think that the way it was done was brilliant. Like, it was great.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So that was that. So that's all I have for episode 1.
Okay.
Episode 2 was the I put down the eating the pie scene, the PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not gonna use the word triggered. I use that a lot, but I felt something with that. You know, I felt the emotion with the PTSD and what the like pie represented to him, and really how he was struggling with that. It's like those things you don't really think about unless you're someone that either has dealt with PTSD or know someone who has dealt with it. But yeah, I put that. I put muffled screams, grin and bear it. So it must have been the scene where he had to
he
like muffle his scream in the bathroom and pull the tissue, the paper towel.
How many times in a job have you been emotionally upset and went to the bathroom and just cried and screamed, but not loud because you didn't want anybody to hear you, because you don't want your coworkers to be like, what's wrong with you? I don't understand. Why are you upset? And like, you got to pull it together.
Crying silently. Absolutely. I've done that several times.
I have
so
too.
I've done that several times, but when he did it, like when he screamed, I was like, oh, you can really feel that, because it's like you really had to get that out. You know what I mean? As opposed to when you're crying silently, you just really suppressing that. He got it out. Right. And I'm just like, oh, you could just feel the whole energy and vibration surrounding that. So that's what I put in episode 2.
Okay.
Episode 3, I got when they called her Negress.
Oh yeah.
Negress. I just was like, okay, this show, the Negress, and when they said coons are as strong as apes, I did something with that. And when she was on the bus, that's when I think that was kind of when we first see that she has trauma. You know, this is when we really, because at first I put in the first episode, like, is the mom crazy? Even though I knew it was going to tie into like she probably wasn't, but I made that as a note so that I can go back to it. But episode 3 is when we actually really see the extent of her trauma. Well, we start to see what her trauma is, so see what's really going on. And I also made a note in the first episode how the baby wasn't with them when they got to
California.
When they got to California, and I was just like, man, come on now, what happened to the I think I was better off not knowing what happened to the baby.
Yeah.
So what did you think about do you remember the bus scene?
I do remember the bus scene. Lucky had walked the girls to the bus and all the kids were standing there, and you know, they were just sort of standing around, and she moved to the front, you know, and put them on the bus and then walked back home, and they were still playing the music, and you know, all her neighbors were outside harassing her, and she just seemed like she was still lost in what we'll later find out is her grief. But as you said, is she crazy? Did she do something? You know, what was the interaction? Because we still don't know what happened with the white lady and, you know, the people that were with her. We know something bad happened, but you don't quite know. And there's this pressure for her to be what I saw to be perfect. I have to keep up appearances, and not appearances in the way that I have to look the part, but I have to be the part as well. So my hair has to be together, my dress has to be together, the house has to be together. No matter what I'm going through, I can't let anybody see my weakness. And I started to think of this is, you know, I got to put on the face all the time, and I got to be that strong Black woman and just keep going until at a certain point you see when she falls apart and you get it and you understand it. And I'm just like, wow. Because, you know, most people after going through what she went through, I don't know, would they really have survived? So.
So when she went to her cousin's house, it was either her cousin or her husband's cousin, who was played
Her
by
husband's
Paula,
cousin.
her
Mhm,
husband's cousin.
mhm.
And that's the bus scene I was talking about when
Oh, that scene,
the
yes, that scene was interesting because I was like, wow. Oh, we're
ex-
manifesting things. I said, oh, this spirit is walking with her.
right. And that's why I was just like, wait a minute. Okay. So that's when I started saying like this has to do with like our,
Mm-hmm.
our inner demons, our things like that. So I just wanted to know if you remember that
Yeah,
actual scene.
yeah.
So was okay. So was the cousin real or not?
Her the it
His
was husband's cousin was real. The person that I didn't think was real was, remember she went to the house with the lady and the man was in a wheelchair and the kids were in the oven. I didn't think she was real because that seemed like
when
it,
that's
girl.
in my that's actually in my next episode. That's episode 4. I said hallucinations. I got the white girl friend,
Yes.
and I put Noni and Nika Rose when she was scrubbing the boys clean. Oh, oh,
It's like, wow.
what? Right. So were they real? Was she real, or were they real? Like the husband and the boys. And I didn't know if the husband's cousin was real either, because like towards the end, remember it was a scene at the end
Yeah.
when then she was
Yes.
talking to her, and I said,
But I thought that was the spirit because she was at home and she thought that the cousin had came over. So that's what I thought it was. I think her cousin was real, that she actually did
okay,
go to the house. She did her hair and all of that. The problem was when she got on that bus, that demon had her and, threw her around a little bit. And she was just like,
listen, roughed her up real good, right? I was
right.
like, what the. So yeah, that's what I have for that. Was interesting for that. And so that was episode 3. And 4 was the Noni and Nika Rose. And I said Bet's parents. So what did you think about the neighbor? Her name was it, I got Betts. That's what they were calling her. So was her name Betty?
Yeah. I believe it was
Betts.
Betty.
What
Yeah.
did you think about her parents?
I was like, her father was molesting her? Are you kidding? Like, he said, you need to take a bath. And I thought, okay, wait a minute. She came here to ask for money. The
He said,
mother
okay, wait
came
a minute.
downstairs. Wait a minute. I was like, wait, the mother came downstairs and was like, why are you here? You shouldn't have came back. And I was like, okay, is this really her mother? And then,
That's what I thought. I thought it was a stepmom or something like
I
that.
thought it was a stepmom too. But
Mm-hmm.
then the father was like, you shouldn't stay away so long. Come on, let's have a bath. And I was just like, and then she sat there and he was walking around the bathtub whistling and, like, I'm about to get me some. And I was
I
just like,
said,
wait, what?
I just look same.
Wait, but you are so pissed off and mad about the Black people that moved across the street from you that you are willing to go to jail to push them out of the house, but your daddy was molesting you. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
come
So
on now.
I guess they put that in there for flavor so that we can feel some sympathy for Betts, but I still didn't.
I did not either, and even
And
when we get to the episode where she gets her just comeuppance, I didn't feel sympathy. I was
I
like,
was just
thank you.
look. I was just like, look. Oh,
I was like,
like
wow.
I said, I feel bad. I mean, I said, should I feel bad for not caring? Like I really was like caring it. It shocked me because I was like, is that real? Because I'm again, you don't know what's real and what's saying what's reality and fantasy. a demon. I was just like, did that really happen? When they ain't sure no more, I said, oh, that was real.
Yes. But think about bullies. But where do bullies come from? Bullies usually come from an environment where they have been abused and bullied. And once
Absolutely.
I saw that, I was like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
she comes from a traumatic environment. However,
Yep.
she's a horrible person.
A
So
horrible.
just horrible. So any sympathy that I have for her went out the window, but I was like, oh, that's just messed up. Like,
No,
seriously?
I ain't had none.
Wait, and then I understood why her remember her husband kept saying he wanted to have kids, and she kept saying, well, we just haven't got around to it. I'm like, I understand why. You don't have a healthy relationship with sex because your daddy was screwing you, and who knows what you do with your husband. But okay.
Oh, but now look, but not only that though, but did you catch the other parts of why she and her husband weren't really intimate? Because he was gay though. Did you
Yes,
catch
he
that?
was. Yes,
Yeah,
yes. He was coming out of some place he didn't belong. And I was like, oh,
exactly. That bar, he
we got
talks all
all
the bars
kind
look the same.
right.
In the dark, it's like,
I'm like, we got all
oh,
kind of secrets up in here.
look,
Woo!
listen, I be all for the layering of the secrets and yeah. Cause
Yeah.
I be feeling like, oh, everybody got something going on.
Mhm.
Everybody, it's like, what's going on in
Right.
your house? So
Definitely.
yeah, I thought that was interesting, but I didn't have any sympathy for her for that. But
Yeah.
it did explain why she was. I ain't gonna say explain. Well, no, that was an explanation. It's more so not an excuse, but it's an explanation as
Mhm.
to why she was a trash person. But she was horrible.
She was. And then was chatting with the milkman every day, having coffee or tea or whatever, for I was like, what kind of route do you have that you could just go and sit? But maybe that's white privilege, I guess.
Listen,
I don't know. I was like, what?
that's totally what it was. But listen, you see what I'm saying? That's what happens because whole time she had no other interest in him but to use him in her grander scheme of things. You see what I'm saying? So she trying to be all like, oh, and trying to finesse him. Whole time he got a whole
Okay,
plan.
come on, let's get to it. Come on, let's go to episode 5.
Episode 5, I just have, this is when we found out about the redlining and the flipping of properties and the predatory lending. That's in episode 5.
Yes, and cat in a bag.
And cat in the bag. And I actually got a sad face emoji next to it.
Yes,
That
I
hurt
cried.
me so much. So I got the old Black Joe song. I got rape in all caps.
Yes.
We talking about the link that you sent me for that article
Mm-hmm.
and society's fascination with rape culture.
Mm-hmm.
And the cat in the bag, because this is the thing. Oh, that's what I'm standing there. I don't know why I thought that, as far as I didn't think that she was going to get raped at first.
Mm-hmm.
I really just thought they were just gonna, because they seemed like they were a little off. You know what I mean? You know how it showed like them.
I saw it coming.
Inbred
Mm-hmm.
people. So I was just thinking like, oh, they were just gonna rough her up a little. And when I saw, excuse me, what they did with the baby, I was just like,
yeah.
But then I said, y'all gonna rape her and do that to the baby? I was just like, they ain't gonna do both. They ain't about to do both.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
yeah.
I couldn't.
So
the cat in the bag thing was that was traumatizing for me.
It was. So let me say this. The article that I sent you was in the Atlantic, and it talks about rape culture, and it specifically starts off with a show called Game of Thrones, which if you watch Game of Thrones, rape, if you were a woman in Game of Thrones, the likelihood that you were going to get assaulted was pretty high. It was about basically 98, 99%, because every woman in there went through something. And the author was just saying, why is it that in every show, whenever you have a strong woman, that's usually what happens? And George R.R. Martin said, well, rape is a big part of fantasy. And I read some fantasy, but not enough to be able to really say, because some of the fantasy I read is sci-fi fantasy, and that sometimes doesn't necessarily have it in there. And so I understand sort of where he's coming from, because I guess if you're talking middle age, then yeah, maybe, I don't know. But the one thing I thought about for them two movies came to me immediately. And when I saw the scene and when I saw the men come up the drive, I said, oh, they gonna rape her. And I thought about The Last House on the left and I Spit on Your Grave. And those two movies specifically came out in the 70s and had horrific rapes featured in those where it was brutal. And the nature of it was so brutal that when the woman or the family members or whomever comes back for revenge, it had to be as equally as brutal as the assault on the woman. And so when I saw that, I thought, ooh, this is not going to end well. And I kept thinking, not cat in a bag. I didn't see that coming. I thought we're just going to take the baby and then maybe they find the baby later gone, dead, or the baby was sold or something. That's what I thought. Not that they would that this woman would put this baby in a pillowcase and then say, let's play cat in a bag and start tossing the baby around to the men while they're raping Lucky on the floor. I was like, what? And now the Marvin Rush, one of the showrunners, one of the writers, he said he dreamed that scene. In an article that I read, he dreamed that. And he said that, going back to your question about was the racism too much, he said he had to go back and forth with, the leadership at the studio. And they said the same thing. And he said, listen, what happened to Black folk in this country is not pretty. We have to do justice. And I thought about it and I read a couple articles and I said, but you guys don't understand, when they lynch people and they cut babies out of wombs and they let the baby hang and die, they have pictures of that in newspapers and books.
Right.
When you lynch somebody and you burned them alive and they were still kicking and moving, people saw that. I'm not saying that, we necessarily have to see that, but I understand why the people that created this show, why they wanted to do that, because they needed you to see the horror in it. And I think because of the way that they did it, we did see the horror in it.
Absolutely. And just like Tanana Reeve Do says, because I'm always quoting this, Black horror Black history is Black horror.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That is very true. And we see this all through them. All right, let's go. Episode 6.
Blackface. I just talked about the blackface guy being creepy.
Man, Mr. Gollywog. Yeah. I didn't quite understand that character. You got to explain the ending to me. But keep going. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why I got question marks next to that too. And I talked about the cheerleaders, the contorting of the cheerleaders.
That was weird.
Listen, so some things I just be like, oh, that's like creepy good, but I'm just like, oh, that's still creepy. So that was 6. And episode 7, what did I put? The story about the peaches. We don't own nothing.
Right.
So that was a story. Yeah, I put that on there. Bets in the Milkman.
And
I put down the white paint wanting to be seen. So this was the daughter when she painted her face, and all about, being seen, acceptance, all of it. That's what I made out of that episode. 8, the psych ward, the crazy milkman plot twist.
Yes, it was crazy because I don't think any of us saw that coming.
And I love when you don't see stuff coming.
Yes.
And I kind of felt away because I'm just like, oh man, like, even though I didn't feel sorry for Bets, it just still made me feel away. Like, it gives us like immense like trust issues. Like, you don't know who to trust. You know what I mean? Like, you the milkman, like, dude. But you a whole trained assassin, pretty much. But you know what I mean?
That's what I loved about it, because it's the same thing when you hear about serial killers, and they'll go, well, Mr. Davis lived next door to us and he would always come over and take my garbage out. And I never knew that he was luring small children in his house and beheading them and burying them up under his garage. And, those people come out and they're like, you didn't know that? Like, he had 20 bodies in his garage. I never knew that. Right. But the thing of it is, they seem so normal.
Right.
These people that do these hideous things. So I'll tell you, when she was laying on the couch and she was loopy, I said he drugged her. I said, it's
Where they
something
going?
else going on here. I said, wait a minute, wait.
Because it took a minute for that though. Because at first it was coming off as if it was like just a, you
Yeah.
know,
Mm-hmm.
mutual, consensual conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and they just chatting it up, and she's just like, "Hey, can you do a thing for me?" And
Right.
he's like, "What?" Yeah. He's like, "Yeah, I could do that." She's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Okay, he gonna do this for her," because you could tell he had a crush on her.
Mm-hmm.
And then bam, plot twist. I said, "Yeah," but that wasn't the biggest of the plot twists though. That was just a little small
Right.
plot twist. So yeah, that's what I got for that.
Episode 9.
Yeah, that was eight, episode 9. Well, I got the beating and torturing of the dad. That was 8. Oh, I put the man in the black hat.
Yeah.
I
Mr.
was
Guy.
glad when they really, clarified that story, because I was just like, who is this man in the black hat? Like, come on now. He in 8 episodes now. What's going on? So yeah, I got that. He was like the ghost spirit
Mm-hmm.
Sunday. So I liked how they were showing the spirits that were pretty much like inhabiting, stalking, the bodies with her body.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was great, and how they got rid of him. That was good. And
Mm-hmm.
episode 10, she escaped from the asylum, and that's why I put demons within. And when Henry was watching the picture show of what happened to Lucky,
Yes. That was hard to watch. Yeah.
very hard to watch. And um, so I was trying to figure out, was the man in blackface, because he had some good points though. He was trying to get Henry to look at some things too, like look again the
Mm-hmm.
demons within. So the blackface was more so like his shadow side too, I think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was pretty much saying like he wasn't really there for Lucky.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he had, even though he took the kids out and he was present for the kids, that he needed to stand up for Lucky and all that kind of stuff. And that's all I got.
Very good. That's a good breakdown. Okay, so episode 1, the scenes that stood out for me when he when he goes to his new job, and he's talking to the receptionist secretary lady, and he is asking for his boss, and she goes, "Oh, I kitchen's on the 3rd floor." Like
She was brushing them
immediately,
off.
right, immediately dismissed him, had nothing to say to him. And then of course we have the brother who's the janitor who's like, "I got it. I'll take him down there." And you know, I can't remember his name, but he was like, "I'm going to engineering." And she looked at him and was like, "Oh, I know I don't have time for this today." And I want to say, you don't have time for what?
Right. Yes. Yep.
So I understood that. And when I saw that, I was like, okay, here is a Black man who was traumatized in the South. Because remember when they had their meeting and Bet stood up there and said, they all running from some trauma. Maybe if we traumatize them so much here, they'll run back to where they came from. And I thought, wow, y'all are some evil, angry, low down people.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
then we see, as we watch him go through his progression, the husband, of how, because he wasn't there for his wife, you see him in moments gaining clarity, and then other moments where he succumbs to just the whirl of emotions around him. When he has a flashback to the guy whose face turns red and he's got all this gas, and he was talking about the experiments and different things. And I thought, what did they do to him while he was over there?
Mm-hmm.
And he brought all that back home, trying to be normal,
Yep.
built a beautiful home for his family. The one thing that he loves to do is watch movies. We love to watch movies. And he says, you know what? I'm going to take my girls out and we're going to watch movies. and the wife gets to stay at home with the baby, which she was perfectly content to do.
Yep.
And the one day that he doesn't stay home with her, a violent, crazy mob of white people, like you said, inbred, which made me think of the movie The Hills Have Eyes. They're updated because the same thing happened in that, where you had some cannibal inbred people who came and assaulted one of the people there. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, they're doing the same story, but then you have Cat in the Bag. So the thought of it's PTSD, you have PTSD, the death of a child, the assault of a wife, your house is broken, we're literally, they've trashed everything in your house.
Yep.
There's no neighbor. There's nobody around you, that
Right. They have been watching them for a while. Like
that's what I thought too. That's what I thought too. And because the lady said, "Oh yeah, we saw them a while ago," and I was like, she was coveting that house. She wanted that house, and like a lot of people, and my grandmother would tell me this because she was born in Mississippi in the deep South. And she would say when she was 13 and she had a job at the local canning plant, the white people would come up to the plant, and the people that actually owned it, who were white, would tell them to go. And, quote unquote, white trash were told to get off the property. And they would say, well, give the whites a job. And they said, but y'all don't work. Go away.
oh,
And yes, that's real story. And so my grandmother would tell me that, and she would say, but you still had to work twice as hard as everybody else to
absolutely.
to get a little bit. And so when I saw that, I started thinking, okay, because it's a beautiful home in the
It was
middle,
beautiful.
a beautiful home in the middle of nowhere.
Nowhere.
And I'm gonna jump around a little bit because at the end of last episode, remember when the white men had broken into the house and they were mad? You got a TV, boy? How you get a TV? And my thought was, and he said to him, well, what do you do? And he said, I'm an engineer. You an engineer, you got to be down here with us. It reminds me of something Chris Rock said in one of his comedy shows. He said, I am a millionaire. I make millions of dollars standing on stage doing jokes. My next door neighbor is a dentist. How many teeth does he have to clean to live in a similar house next door to me in my posh neighborhood? And we laugh about it, but the reality is sometimes, and I shouldn't say sometimes, a lot of times, when Black folks achieve, we do it through great achievement. But the people that are around us who are in whatever industry that's in don't do half of what we've done to get to where we are. And
Big facts.
Yes, and you see that. I also saw there are some class issues because they moved into this house. You remember the cousin was like, y'all uppity, y'all over there in East Compton. You can't come over here. Right. You can't come over here and be around us, be around your family. And I said, Black folk get a little money. You want to spread out. You want to move somewhere nice. You want to do something different.
You do.
You don't want to be like everybody else. But when you do that, sometimes family, friends, community will treat you differently or talk about you because you do decide to move. And I saw Lucky, her character, as sort of saying, but I need the support of people around me because right now I don't have anybody. I can't walk down the street with my daughter because everybody's staring at me. The scene where she's hanging up her sheets in the backyard and the white boy comes up and starts pissing out. I had picked up a paddle. Was
you was running too.
I was like, what are you? And
that's why I said it was so much. I was just like, I can't.
And remember, her and her daughter, her youngest daughter, they're walking down the street. I felt vulnerable for both of them because everybody was glaring at them. And I'm like, they're women. They don't care that this is a small child. They will violate this child just like they would violate her. And then once you see Cat in the Bag, episode 5, you like, oh heck, I don't know how you
It's
go out of
confirmed.
the house.
Exactly.
But the man in the black hat made me think of 2 movies. First movie was Poltergeist. And I think we've had this conversation because I don't remember if you told me you've seen Poltergeist.
I have, but it's been a while. So
Okay.
it's basically like I haven't. I got a whole list. You got a whole list for me. I'm gonna go and watch the list. Matter of fact, I'm gonna watch it. Go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you did see Rosemary's Baby, so that's a good thing because I'm gonna add that in there. But Poltergeist. So here you have a family that moves into a haunted house because it's built on top of an Indian burial ground. We learn in episode 9 that the man in the black hat was this crazy preacher man who was trapped in his grief. Now, all horror movies, if anybody has extreme amount of grief, sadness, anger, any extreme emotion, the devil is gonna prey on it. And when when that boy shows up, I said, is that a boy or is that something else? And the little boy kept acting like a little boy until we saw that he wasn't. I was like, oh, I called it. I knew it. I was like, that was the sacrifice or the deal that he made to feel that grief that he had experienced. And when we find out that East Compton is built up on top of this cursed land where they literally killed these people in such a brutal fashion.
Oh my goodness.
In such a brutal fashion. But listen, there are true stories. There's a military veteran, and my girlfriend and I just talked about it. It's a true story. Guy comes back from the war. He's a decorated soldier somewhere in the South. Some white people get mad at him. They blind him. They are caught. They are arrested. And 10 minutes later, after the verdict, or 10 minutes later, after the trial is over, they are acquitted. This black man was defiled. They took his eyes out of his head or burnt his eyes out of his head. So when I saw it, that was immediately what I thought of. And the whole notion of when he said, well, you're my friend. And I thought, that's not your friend. You don't know who he is. And not to say that religious people, but we see sometimes with Jim Jones and other groups like that religious sects can be a little loopy.
Listen, a lot of loopy. I knew where they was going with it. As soon as they showed it, I said, oh.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, but I wasn't quite sure it was going to be that bad.
I did not think it was going to be that bad.
But when he dug the well, I said, oh, dang. I said, y'all need to get out of Dodge now. Because the white man was like, well, how you know that? And I screamed at the TV because he worked in the field. He's an ex-slave. Of course he would know that.
Right. I knew that's when it was going to go sour. I knew. Yeah.
And when it did, and then I saw it, I was like, wow. And when the demon child told the preacher man, he said, I'll give you immortality, but you got to drive them crazy. And I'll tell you, because, every day there's a video out of white people, racist white people. And I'm talking about racist white people, nobody else, because I've seen some other people, other ethnic groups that act that crazy and say things. But there's something about racist white people. When they go on a tangent, they look scary. Like horror movie scary. It's so much to the point where you look at their eyes and I'm waiting for their eyes to,
be red.
Girl, red, black, horns spot out, everything.
The full black eyes. Yeah.
Right. I'm like, are you getting ready? Because that's what they're so angry.
Enraged. Yeah.
And I'm just like, because you mad at black people? Because whatever, right. Whatever the reason is. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's perfect. Because as you said, hallucinations. So from her going to the house, because that house was creepy. When she went in and that lady kept sitting there and she was all pristine. And I thought, that's the same lady that was in the mental institution with her. That's the one that killed her family. And I was like, oh. So my question is, when she walked up to the house, was she really walking up to the house, or was she just at home and just in her head? Because remember, when she went in the basement, the little girl kept saying, "I whatever her the teacher, Mrs. Vickers or whatever that lady's name was."
Right.
I was like, "Wow, this is because when she snatched her in the
Yeah, I remember that
closet."
part.
Yep, when she snatched her in the closet, I said, "Oh, that's Poltergeist." I said, "Because that's a closet scene." Because in Poltergeist, the little girl gets snatched into the closet, which is the doorway into the heart of the house, and in them, it was to the other dimension or the place where this evil exists.
Right, right.
And so essentially, it was evil. It, I saw it as evil is attracted to children. And every horror story that has a family in it, every horror story that has a family in it, from The Shining to
I was
Poltergeist.
about to say The Shining.
Yes,
I gotta finish watching it.
yep,
Poltergeist,
you got to finish watching it.
Exorcist.
It's always attracted to the children. The younger, the better, because they're more vulnerable. And then when you finally see it and he's trying to pull Lucky, I was like, oh, this is The Shining, because this is that eternal evil that is trying to draw her in, because it needs another notch on this belt, because it's saying you belong here.
Yes, and she lured her with the baby, with her saying
Right.
that she could be reconnected with
Mhm.
with the little baby that was in the cat in the back. I couldn't. It was just it was a lot.
Okay, but wait a minute now. Remember what was in the box was the actual baby's body. I was like,
Yep.
and
Look,
I remember when I saw the scene and I was like, she dug the body up. So where did she put it? And then she was carrying it around and I was like, and nobody paid attention that it was the little, I don't want to say a cigar box, but that's what it looked like to me.
it did look like a cigar box.
It did with
Mhm.
his bones in it. And I was just like, wow. And when her husband realized, he was like, you did it. And I was like, where have you been? You ain't been paying attention. She is broken.
Yes. And that's why when they revealed it, I literally was just like, I didn't say, oh, she crazy. I said, that's because you don't know how you gonna feel, how you gonna react if it were you. Again, it was traumatizing. She was sad. That's how I looked at it. I was just like, oh, poor Lucky.
Yes.
That's how I looked at the entire thing. Like, oh, that she carrying around that baby remains.
Yes. The show I thought was very good. It is a lot to process.
It is.
But I will tell you the influences that I saw were Poltergeist, The Shining, The House on the Left, I Spit on Your Grave. I know we talked a little bit about Rosemary's Baby and what I saw from Rosemary's Baby. So you remember when they moved into the apartment building, they thought, oh, we lucked up and we found this. So I sort of thought that too with the realtor, because she's trying to make a profit. She had made a deal with the police officer. Basically, it was one of those situations where it was too good to be true. And even when Lucky saw the clause in the contract, and she said, but we can't, and the realtor was like, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about that.
I got this. I said, oh, this is part of the setup. And so them is not just a haunted house story. The entire neighborhood was impacted. And if you think about it, so in Poltergeist, the neighborhood was acting crazy because strange lights or different things would happen, although everything was centered at one house. The Shining was the same thing. It wasn't just one part of the hotel, there were certain parts of the hotel that were extra creepy, but it was the entire hotel, it was the entire area. And so I
Mm-hmm.
thought of them as being the same thing. So this is truly when evil starts as a seed in one place and spreads. And so you
Absolutely.
see it spread from their house, where that's the epicenter, all the different things that happened there, because there was a family that was there before, and the mother had killed her kids and I believe her husband. And so that's why that house ended back up on the market, because the people
Right.
made her go crazy. And then
Yeah.
here you have this neighborhood that just can't let it go, that you have another Black person, and they make it seem as if the world is ending because a Black family lives across the street from them who does not come out at all. There's nobody sitting on the front porch drinking coffee. There's nobody coming outside getting the paper, reading the paper on the porch.
Minding the business.
Right,
Minding their business. Like
minding
we always do. For
exactly.
most of them, we always do.
And so evil, once it creeps in, it infects everything. So whether it's a building,
Mhm.
a neighborhood, what have you, it impacts everybody. And we saw that. And even when we get to Bets, and she gets trapped in the bunker, which I thought was funny. That
I do too. I
first
thought that was the ultimate karma.
it was when she woke up,
Ultimate.
and I was like, oh, she in a bunker, like
The
underground.
ultimate.
And the
Woman.
white man her husband can't find her. The neighbors can't find her. And just, going
Ex-
after the husband, like, we know you did something. He's like, I didn't do anything
Nothing.
to your wife.
Whole time milkman.
Girl.
One shot done.
Yes. She climbs out. Thinks she
I really
had
thought she was gonna get away.
I did too. She was running. I was like, are they gonna let her go? Wow. And then boom. I was like, oh,
One shot. And the fact that he let her get so far. That's the
he
thing.
sure
It's
did.
like,
Because you could see it was paining him. He was like, I love her, but she just won't
she
cooperate.
won't comply.
Right.
She won't let me love her like I want to.
Exactly. I mean,
She,
he done made a
she don't want all this
romantic.
love. All this love I got for you, and you just don't. You ungrateful. Okay, I'm gonna
Right.
show you.
I done bought you this beautiful pink dress. You can do your hair and your makeup. I've cooked this nice romantic dinner. What? I was like,
Not good enough for you. Okay,
wow.
there you go.
Right.
Bam.
That was crazy.
Look.
But
Yeah.
I will say, the couple of things that stood out for me, the beginning, when you see Lucky in her house, and then of course what happens to her. You watch her husband and the different things that he goes through. The whole notion of Ofe, I didn't know what an old Ofe was. And then I had to look it up. I was like, oh, that's a real word. They didn't just make that up.
No, what is that? I didn't know. I don't know what that is either.
It's a slur for white people. It is.
Really?
Yes, it's a slur for white people. But okay, but here's my question, and because we're running out of time. So at the end, the gollywog, the blackface character, because I got that was Shadow, that was inner demons, the feeling of I'm not seen, the same as the daughter needing to be white because she can't be like her mother because she thinks her mother is crazy because she really
Right.
doesn't understand, which I got that. Who would tell their child everything that happens to them? No one would tell that.
We don't.
So, but at first I kept looking, and I was like, is this white girl real? Because I don't think she's real. But then it kept looking like she was real. And then I realized it was a scene that came up when I think the janitor caught her, and he was like, what are you doing in there? And she wasn't there. I said, oh, all haunted. They're
all
all
of it.
haunted.
Yep.
Everybody has
all of them. Even the kids. That's what I'm saying. We all have a side of us that, again, that's why I said shadow, because shadow was more so what we were trying to suppress or push down. You know what I mean? Without using the word like demon, because some kid, kids little, they ain't really got no demons, but it's like the little girl, she
Right.
didn't want to, she wasn't comfortable in her body and in her skin.
Yeah.
So that was what her so that's when I realized, like, okay, this has something to do with what we're repressing, suppressing, and all of that. Yeah. But the blackface man character,
because at the
I
end,
think it was more so he's put on a face. Yeah.
But remember, at the end, he gets shot,
Mm-hmm.
and the husband wipes his face, and it's a white guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, okay, is this a neighbor?
I thought it was the boss. Did he kill him?
I thought he did, because remember, he was in his house, but then now see, I have to go back and watch it. But
I don't think he was able to. I don't think he killed him.
Okay.
Something tells me, yeah. Something tells me he didn't kill him. And so when he wiped the face, so I immediately thought it was the boss.
Okay. Which would make sense to me, because everybody was trying to make him crazy because he did such good work, but nobody wanted to give him credit for it. He asked 2 big questions, and they were just like, nah, you can't. You got to go back to a small project, because you're going to outshine all of us.
Exactly. We can't have that.
And then how dare you walk up to somebody when we told you not to? How dare you show up to an event? Right. How dare you show up to an event where we're honoring our staff, and we told you not to come and told you to enjoy your day off? Who
Listen, when it's my work that y'all praising and all like this, no, I'm gonna tell it.
Right. I can't be here. He was like not having it. Like, no, sir. Nope. He walked right up to him, and I was just like, wow. I was like,
thank you.
Yeah. But he and so the blackface character was giving him the strength and the courage to do some of that. The problem was he couldn't see how broken his wife and his family was. And I think the scene where he had to rewatch that, and the blackface character was like, sit down.
Right.
You need to watch this, because you need to pay attention. He was like, because what you gonna do? And I was like, I said,
exactly.
When you start talking
right.
to you, like, whoa.
And that's why I was saying it was getting us to really look at ourselves, see what's really going on, not like point the finger, like for real, be present. You're gonna watch this. It's hard, but guess what? Your wife is going through stuff too. It's hard for her too. So yeah, that's what I'm like. None of it is pretty. You gotta do it. You gotta address it.
Not at all. Not at all. So for me, the show really talked about, as you said, Tanner Dew says, Black history is horror, and it is. A lot of it is. I mean, we have some wonderful achievements and accomplishments, but so much of it, from lynching to the violence to the sexual assault to so many of things, the degradation, the brutalization that was done, is horrifying. And
it is.
If people stood back and said, who would want to go through that? But then at the same time, and I always say this, and I'm glad that you brought up the superhero remark, that in the face of all of that, that you still can move forward, live, and thrive in that environment. And where Lucky rejects the demon and says, no, she chooses her family that's still here. She's like, my son is gone. There's nothing that's going to bring him back, but I have my family here. And she chooses them. And when it curses him, I was like, yes, thank you. I didn't quite like how it ended. I understood it was a metaphorical ending for when they all walked outside and, the police had the guns on them. I get that's sort of what society is like today. I get that. I really wanted to see them have a happy ending.
Yeah.
They had just been through so much in the show.
So much. Every episode, they went through something.
It was. And I was like, why am I watching this?
Where's it? Right. So many people on my timeline said, I'm not into re-traumatizing myself. And I get that too, but yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot, but I still thought it was good.
Yes. And I would highly recommend anyone who enjoys horror to watch it. I think it's a well done show. I understand that a second season is coming. It's going to be like an American Horror Story where you'll have different seasons, but they will be self-contained in terms of their story. So I don't know if there will be a connection or, you know, if we'll do a continuation, but from what I understand, it will be another several episodes, but it's going to be a different story.
I would like to see how they do that, because I do like the theme, the premise of American Horror Story. I really do like that. That each season is a certain theme, and then they have that. Yeah, that's my. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
I can.
Even though
I'm about to watch Coven. That's what I'm about to watch.
yes, that is season 3. I think that American Horror Story, that there is an overall something, there's a connection to each season. The people are in some type of a hell, just not quite sure what it is, which is a common horror trope, that people are trapped in whatever their own version of hell
The hell is.
be.
I like that. Yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
might be right. You may be right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You may be right. Okay, I'm a, yeah. That's what I watch. That's how I end my night.
Do that. Thank you, Phette, for coming on the Kim B. Davis Show. Tell us how we can find you.
Thank you for having me. You can find me at FiatteHollins.com. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram at Fiat Hollins, and Fiat Writes on Instagram. So Fiat Hollins on Facebook and Fiat Writes on Instagram.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you, Phette, for coming on. We have to find another show because we got to talk about a movie called Spell with Omari Hardwick and Lavetta Devine. We got to talk about that because I watched that, and we got to talk about the great Felicia Rashad, who was in Black Box. I thought, well, that was an amazing piece of movie. So
I'm glad you liked them.
I did. So, but we got to talk about that on our next episode. So thank you again. And I'm sure we'll see you soon to talk about those 2 movies.
Yes, I can't wait.
Same here. Thank you guys for tuning into the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis. You know, you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn. Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can find out more information about me as an author, podcast host, playwright at KimBDavis.com. You can see this show on YouTube.com/Kimberly Bachelor Davis. You can also listen on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google. And as always, remember, be magnificent.